Assalamu alaikum children. Can you all hear me?
Walaikum salam, miss. Yes.
Okay, so how are y'all? How is life? Doing good?
Yeah, teacher, how about you?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, I'm also doing good. Right. So, children, today we are starting the grade 10 batch. Okay, grade 10 batch number 1. Okay, we are starting from the lesson 1. Okay, this is a free session. You all can share with your friends. So then they will also have an idea of what are we going to do. Right. And tomorrow we have the free session for grade 11s as well. So if you are a 2026 O-level batch, you can attend the class and gain the benefit. Right. So let's start. Right, children, if you all don't have the tune, like I uploaded the tune like around 3:40. It got little delay to send. If you are not there in the WhatsApp group, can you leave a message to my number so then you will get the tune. Right. So today we are going to learn, do the tune, and this is how my theory class will work. Right. Today you will have an idea of how the class will work. Right. So if you all don't have the number, just get it. This is my number. Okay, have the number. If you don't have the tune, if you did not receive the tune, leave a message to this number. I'll send you the tune. Right. Okay, children. Now, how many of y'all are to grade 10 where you have started this year? The people who are the grade 10 people who started here, like you have no idea of what is the lesson is. Only one. Others are 2025 O-level batch students. Like who are the grade 11 batch currently. 2026 O-level batch student who are here. Okay, right. Right, children. Okay, let's leave that apart. Let's leave that apart. Okay. Now, when you are studying with me, this is an idea that I wanted to give you when you are studying with me. Okay, there are a kind of rules that you have to follow, right? So not a strict one, but this is the idea to gain the maximum benefit. Right, children? Now, while I'm teaching children, you know there are three parts of science as biology, chemistry, physics. You can't follow the same method to study all these three. Okay, there are different methods that you have to follow. Right, I will be teaching you in detail how to study, what to do, what you have to know in detail, what you don't have to know, what is not necessary. Everything will be taught to you. Right, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry once you join the class. Right, children? But one thing that you have to follow all the time, that you have to follow my works. Right, you have, if I give you a work, you have to do it before the deadline. You have to send me. I will be correcting each and every work of you, and I will be sending you a review on how you have to improve and what you have to do further. Right, that idea will be done. That is the plan. Right, children? So now today we are starting the first lesson of grade 10 syllabus, which is chemical basis of life. Okay, chemical basis of life. Right. Now, when you all the time hear the word life, organism, you have to remember that type of lesson fall under the category of biology. Right? Biology is a study of living matter. You study about plants, you study about microorganism, you study about animals, where you study, like in the category of animals, you study about human. So that category where you study about all these things you call as the biology. Chemistry, you deal with the chemical calculation, the periodic table, the reactivity series. You study about that. Physics is all about how does the earth works. Right? The velocity, speed, and you study about all those stuffs. Right, children? Now, let me tell you how to study biology. Now, you might be knowing, like, if I write in my own words, I will get the marks, and that is easy. No, children, no, not all the time. You can't all the time build up the concept by yourself, because certain things you have to memorize. Okay, certain things you have to memorize, where you have to study. So this is one of the easy method of studying biology, and if you follow this method, it is easy for you to score marks. Right? This is one of the method that I followed. Right? And it was successful. Okay, I followed this method and I was successful. So therefore, I'm letting you know. Memorize in the sense, without zero idea, you memorize, not like that, children. You should have the understanding plus the memorizing. That way you will be able to score well in your exam. Right? That is the way of studying biology. Chemistry, physics, we have other methods that I will teach you while we are studying the lesson. Any chemistry lesson or the physics lesson. Right, children? That is the basic idea that I want to give you before starting the lesson. Right. Now, children, when you talk about chemical basis of life, now, by seeing the word chemical, you might think, is it a chemistry lesson? Why do you have chemicals? Children, in your body, even in the life, there is a connection with the chemical, right? So, life associated, it is in a relationship with the chemical. You need chemical, you need oxygen to breathe. Oxygen is one of the chemical. You leave out in the process of respiration, you leave out carbon dioxide. That is a chemical. It is an element of chemistry, right? So you study about all those things where the chemical and life get interact. You study about that in this lesson. Did you get an idea of what are you going to study in the lesson? And you have to respond to me all the time whenever I talk. You can make jokes, I can make jokes. A fun session, right? Fun in the sense you're not going to sing a song, okay? That's not going to work. You have to talk to me, right? You have to talk to me. You can send messages to the co-host. Don't send it to the host, send it to the co-host. Then I will be seeing your chats. Or you can unmute. You're always welcome to unmute and speak, right? No problem in that. Okay, children. So shall we start? Are you ready to study the chemical basis of life? Do you have an idea of what to do, children?
Yes.
Yes. Ready. Okay, let's start. Right. Now, children, when you talk about chemical basis of life, now you have to know the elements. Chemical means what, children? There are elements in the nature. Right. Now, roughly, when you talk about the elements, there can be naturally occurred elements and artificially created elements. Okay, artificially created elements and natural elements, right? Now, when you take the periodic table, now you have seen the periodic table of 20 elements, right? When you move to A levels, you will see the periodic table of 115 elements, right? So yet, children, you don't have a fixed number of elements present in the world, right? Including the artificial and the natural, you don't have a fixed value. Like 115 is not the fixed. Okay, maybe next year they can introduce a new element and making as 160. Some people tell 120 elements are present. This is not a fixed value. This is not a fixed value. They can change. Why? There are researchers taking place and they introduce more elements. So those are artificially produced elements. Right, children? Then now what you have to know is naturally produced element, naturally occurred elements are 92. You can naturally find 92 elements on the earth. Artificially, it is not a fixed value where people are yet, the scientists are yet introducing certain elements. So it is not a fixed value. Right, children? Now you know that 92 elements are present in the nature. No? 92 elements are present in the nature. Now, out of that 92 elements, right? Out of that 92 elements, 25 elements are essential for the human being. Okay? Essential for human. In order to survive on this earth, you need 25 elements presented, or there should be interaction with those elements to survive on this earth. Do you need the 92 elements? No. Out of that, you need 25 elements for your survival. Right, children? Did you get an idea? Did you get an idea of how many elements you need in your body?
Yes.
Right. Now, you have the 25 elements. No? You have 25 elements. Out of those 25 elements, 4 elements are the major elements. Okay, majority, you find these elements in high composition in your body. How many elements? 4 elements. Then you have to know what are the 4 elements that is essential for your living being. For your survival, what are the 4 elements that is important? That is carbon, okay, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. So these are the 4 elements that is high major composition. Majority in your body you can find carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Right, children? And there are some other elements that is essential for you, which is in a minute value, a little amount, not in a big composition as these 4 elements. So they are, let me write in a different color marker so then you will have an idea. Right? They are sulfur. I'll write the abbreviation, right? This chemical formula, right? Sulfur, phosphorus, sodium is present, right? Potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron. Then you need the chlorine, right? So these are some elements which is also essential but in a less amount. Right, children? Let's have a look into it. Listen once again, children. When you talk about elements, elements are what? Chemicals, right? In nature, you can find 92 elements. Out of that 92 elements, 25 elements are essential for the human life, right? Out of that 25, 4 are major. Okay, major composition you find in the body, which is carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. You have to learn with me, children. This is a biology lesson, no? Then you have to be ready to study with me. Okay, children? So when you are interacting, when you are talking to me, when you repeat, you will gain the more idea on the lesson, right? So hopefully you do that. Right, children? So apart from these 4 major composition elements, there are other several elements which you have to know. They are sulfur, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, and chlorine. Did you get an idea of what you learned? Is that flowing into your brain?
Yes.
Right. Good. Now, children, now there are elements, no children. These elements can react. Okay, the elements where you find around you, they can react. So, when an element react with another element, they will form a compound. Right? So, what is a compound, children? Compound is a combination of 2 or more elements. You call that as a compound. Okay, this is one element, this is another element. Combination of those 2 elements, you call that as a compound. Right, now you take carbon dioxide. This is one of the famous compound, right? Here you can find carbon and oxygen. Right, these are the 2 elements. When these 2 elements react, what will they form? Carbon dioxide. These are the elements. What is the combination of these 2 elements are formed? A compound. Right, children? Now, when you talk about compounds, normally there are 2 types of compound. How many types of compound? 2 types of compound. Let's study about those 2 types of compound, which is in related to the living body. Right? So, when you talk about the chemical compound, as I told you, there are 2 types of chemical compounds, right? When you talk about chemical compounds, there are how many types of chemical compounds? 2 types of chemical compounds. What are those 2 types of chemical compound? You call that as the organic compound and inorganic compound. You call it as the organic compound and inorganic compound. Now you have to well concentrate, right? Listen very carefully. This is the basic of your O levels, right? This lesson is important. When you don't understand a single lesson in grade 10, you will find difficult in your grade level. So make sure you concentrate well and study. Okay? So now children, this is being classified. You have the variation between the organic compound and the inorganic compound. Now, that is based on the presence of carbon. Presence of carbon. If you have carbon, if carbon is present in a compound, That compound you call as the organic compound. Presence of carbon you call as the organic compound. When you don't have carbon in the compound, right? That you call as the inorganic compound, right? Now, when you talk about the inorganic compound, there is an exceptional case. So, even having carbon, okay, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and carbonate and bicarbonate, these three bicarbonate, all these four molecules, bicarbonate as well as, okay, these four molecules, they have carbon. Now, carbon dioxide have carbon, no? Carbonate have carbon. Okay, and then you have the carbon monoxide that is also having carbon. Even though having carbon, they have the features, right? Features highly related to inorganic. Therefore, even having carbon, they belong to the group called the inorganic. Did you understand? Let's revise it once again and you will have a better idea. Listen children, when you talk about chemical compounds, what is chemical compound? You have chemicals, two different chemicals combined, they will form one single compound. That is the idea of chemical compounds, right children? So when you talk about chemical compounds, that is being variation. Okay, there is a categorization done based on the presence of carbon. If you have carbon, if the compound is containing carbon, that compound you call as the organic compound. What is organic compound? The compound which contains carbon, that you call as organic compound. Then what do you call as the inorganic compound? Inorganic compounds are the compounds which does not contain carbon, except for carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbonate and bicarbonate. These four molecules or compounds, they have carbon. Carbon is present, but they don't belong to the group of organic. They belong to the group of inorganic due to they have the more features. Features are related to the inorganic group. Therefore, they were kept in the inorganic side. Is that clear to you? Is the variation clear to you?
Yes.
Right. So now children, when you talk about organic, right now, especially you don't highly study about inorganic in your syllabus. Mostly you focused on the organic, right? Now, when you talk about organic, which is living in the body, okay, you can find some organic compounds which is inside the body, inside the living body. Right? So when you can find something inside the living body, you call that molecules as biomolecules. You call those molecules as what children? Biomolecules. What are biomolecules? A molecule present inside the body. So those kind of molecules, you call it as biomolecules, right? Now, when you talk about biomolecules, normally you have 4 biomolecules to study in your syllabus, right? How many biomolecules are present to study in your syllabus, children? There are how many?
4.
4. They are carbohydrates, protein, lipids, and nucleic acid. Right? You got to study out the biomolecules living inside your body, which are carbohydrates, protein, lipids, and nucleic acid. So, mostly in this lesson, you are going to focus on this, right? So, did you have an idea on what are you going to study all the way through the lesson?
Yes.
Right. So the children, these are the biomolecules that you have to work on, right? So except for these biomolecules, right? Except for these biomolecules, you have to further study about vitamins, Okay, you have to study about vitamins. Then you have to study about some inorganic. This is an organic compound, right? Vitamins are considered to be the organic, right? Apart from this, you are going to study about some inorganic compounds which is present inside your body, which is needed for the survival of life, right? They are water. Water, do they contain carbon, children? Water, does they contain carbon? Children, do they contain carbon? No idea. Look at the water molecule. When you look at this, do you find carbon? Do you find a C here? No.
No.
So which means it's inorganic. That is how you classify. When they have carbon, you put that compound to the organic. If they don't have carbon, you put it to the inorganic. Something like that, right? So minerals are also an inorganic compound, right? So these are the things. And then the gases, some gases you have to study. So these are the three inorganic compounds that you have to study. And except for the biomolecules, you have to study about vitamins, which is also an organic compound. Right. Did you all have an idea of what are you going to study and is it clear to you?
Yes.
Right. All clear. Anybody is having a doubt to study? Anybody you want to clarify anything over here? Can we move to the next?
Yes.
Oh, right. Now, children, as I told you, what are we going to do, children? We are going to mainly focus on these biomolecule first, and then later we will be talking about vitamins, water, minerals, and gas, right? Now, as a very first biomolecule, which is carbohydrates, we are going to learn about that. Okay, we are going to learn about carbohydrates. Are you all ready to learn about carbohydrates? Have you all seen carbohydrates, children? Hopefully, yes. Right? I'll tell you what are carbohydrates. No, haven't you seen carbohydrates? Let me tell you what is carbohydrates and you will know whether have you seen or not. Right. Now, children, when you talk about carbohydrates, right? When you talk about carbohydrates, what you have to know, the very speciality of the carbohydrate, it is the most abundant, right? It is the most abundant type of organic compound. It is the most abundant, which is having a most, like the composition of carbohydrates are high, right? Composition of carbohydrate is high on the earth. So it is the most abundant organic compound on the earth. Right, children? Now, how do you get carbohydrates? Now, let me give you some example for carbohydrates where you use in your day-to-day life. Do you eat bread? Do you eat bread?
Yes.
Bread is a carbohydrate. Do you eat rice?
Yes.
Rice is a carbohydrate. What else do you eat normally? Do you eat potatoes? French fries? Do you eat, children? No, nobody eats French fries.
Yes.
You like French fries? Then that is made out of what? Potatoes. Sweet potatoes. I think most probably you might not like. Okay, where mother will be preparing for the school breakfast. Right? Sweet potato maybe. I'm not very sure. Nowadays, I don't know. Right? Then, do you add sugar while you're drinking, while you're having a coffee or a tea or whatever it is, like a juice or something? Do you have sugar?
Yes.
Yes. Then, that is one of the carbohydrates. So, these are carbohydrates, children, which you use, yeah, roti or something, yeah, which is made out of wheat. Let me add wheat as well, then everything under that. Right? these are some of the food which is contained, which is a carbohydrate where you use in your life. Now tell me, don't you use carbohydrates or do you use carbohydrates?
We use.
We use carbohydrate. That is why, children, it is an abundant organic compound. That is why it is an abundant organic compound. Now, carbohydrate is a kind of a biomolecule. Biomolecule means, children, it is an organic compound. No, it is an organic compound which is present inside the body. Now, organic compound means, children, a compound is made out of what? Elements. No? Compound made out of elements. Right? Now, you have to know what is the elemental composition of carbohydrates. Elemental composition means with what combination of elements does a carbohydrate is created. Right? So, let me tell you the elemental composition. Carbohydrates are made out of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Right? What do you find in carbohydrates, children? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So these three are the elemental composition of carbohydrate. Did you understand that?
Yes.
Did you understand that? Everyone, how about the others? Is that clear to you, children? All clear? Anyone is having a doubt? If so, let me know to the co-host. Right. Then, children, there should be a general formula. Okay, there should be what? A general formula in order to study about carbohydrates. So, carbohydrate, now this is an element, no, this is a compound, a kind of a chemical, right? Chemical in the sense is not going to harm you, but it is a chemical, right? So, it is a biomolecule. So, if it is a chemical, children, there should be a formula, right? Now, when you take carbon dioxide, this is a chemical formula of carbon dioxide. So, similarly, carbohydrates has a general formula, that is CH2OY. Right? This is important to remember. Right? You will do everything on the tune. For now, listen very carefully. Now, in a while, I will be starting to teach you with the tune. Okay, children? Right. Now, listen very carefully. Very carefully understand. Carbohydrate is the abundant organic molecule on the earth. Right? So, what are some examples like bread, rice, potato are some examples for carbohydrates. Right, children? You know that carbohydrate is an organic compound. If they are compounds, they are made out of elements. Compound is made out of elements. So, you have to know the elemental composition of carbohydrates. So, the elemental composition is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Right? Now, you know this is a compound which is a chemical. Right? Compound means a chemical. No? Then they should have a general formula. So, the general formula of carbohydrate is carbon X, CX, H2OY. CX, H2OY. Can you please memorize these stuffs now? Go through, just repeat it again and again, then you will have a better idea on what you learn, children. Do it, do it. You should not be lazy when you are learning with me. You should be very active. You have to write, you have to learn, you have to repeat. That is the easiest way to succeed. Right? When you be interactive, when you give your focus, that is easy to score marks in your paper as well. Right? Yeah, tomorrow we have the free session for grade 11. We will be starting the living tissue lesson. Paper class, no, not now itself. Once 2025 O-level batch is done, we will be starting by February 3rd week. We will be starting by that. Maybe in March or February 3rd week. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm planning to start in March. We'll see. Right. So are you all done? Did you all have an idea of what are you learning? Is that clear to you, children?
Yes.
Right. Then let's do some questions from the tune before we move to the next part. So children, if you all don't have the tune, please leave out a message to me, children. This is my number. If you are not in the group, just get the tune and you are supposed to do the work. Right? You are supposed to attend the work. This is the number. Anyways, I will be screen sharing as well. So if you are unable to view it, just better to get. Right. So take a book and a pen. Take out a book and a pen because since I did not send it earlier, I know it is not possible to have a printout. So if you are willing to continue the class, I will be sending you the to the group. You can have a printout and join the class. Right. Do this. Simple question, simple answer. We will be discussing soon. So do it. Then the remaining ones, yeah, you can attend this as well. Right. Do until the 11th question. Then we can have a discussion on these questions. Do it, children. Everyone is supposed to attend. If you don't understand, please, you can ask me. No problem in that at any time. Even in WhatsApp, you can talk to me, right? No problem in that. Everyone is supposed to attend. If you need any clarification in the meantime, you can ask me. Try to do the question by yourself. If you don't understand, ask me. Right? And once you're done, let me know as well. Children, once you are done with the work, let me know in the chat so then we can move to the next part. Do it by yourself. Don't refer to the books. If you don't get the answer, ask me, I'll help you. Think by yourself and do it. That's the way of learning as well. Do it. Yes, Hamna. Sorry, Hannah. Children, can we start the discussion? If you all are doing still, let me know, children.
I'm done, Miss.
Okay. Mushfi, are you done? Right. So I think we can have the discussion. Right. So children, what are the two types of chemical compounds? Define them. What is the very first type, children? Now you all have to discuss with me your answers, huh? That is where you will check whether you have done the correct work or not. You can send me in the chat as well your answers, right? If I ask questions. So tell me children, what are the two types of chemical compounds?
Organic, inorganic.
Very good. So what do you mean by organic compound?
Compound which contains carbon.
Very good. Then what is inorganic?
Compounds contain carbon.
Inorganic
Contain more than carbon.
do not contain carbon. Organic contain carbon, huh? Inorganic do not contain carbon. Except, what are the four molecules I told?
Carbon dioxide,
Mhm.
carbon monoxide,
Mhm.
bicarbonates,
And
carbonates.
very good. Right? So how many elements present in the nature?
95.
95 or 92?
92.
Why three more did you find it in the nature? Alright? Just kidding, huh? Okay. So how many elements present in the living body?
25.
Very good. So how many elements? What are the elements? Oh, wait, let me read the question. Okay. The living body is made out of four major elements. What are they, children? Very good. Very good, Ashra. Oxygen, carbon, not carbon dioxide. It is carbon, right? Carbon, not oxygen gas as well. It is carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen. No gases, not N2H2, not that. Okay, just the element. Those are compounds. Right. What are the other elements essential for survival? Sodium, phosphorus, sulfur, magnesium, chlorine, iron. So those are the elements, right? So what is known as biomolecules, children?
Molecules which present in a living body.
The organic molecules, not the juice molecule, the organic molecules present in the living body is known as biomolecules, right? Then you have to know about what are the four major types of biomolecules, children.
Carbon, carbohydrates,
Very good.
protein,
What else?
lipids, nucleic acid.
Mm, very good. So carbohydrates, protein, lipids, and nucleic acid. So these are the four. Then what is the most abundant type of organic compound, children?
Carbohydrates.
Very good. So where is this organic compound stored? In what type of food?
Red, wheat,
Yeah, so those kind of stuffs. So what is the elemental composition?
carbon, hydrogen, oxygen.
Very good. So what is the general formula?
CxH2O,
Very good. So is that clear? Did you all write it correct? Anyone is having a doubt?
No.
Right, good. Right. Now, children, we are going to study the variation, the categorizations of carbohydrates, right? Now, carbohydrates are normally being classified into three main categories. How many categories? Three main categories. As monosaccharides. Okay, it is monosaccharides and disaccharides finally, the last is polysaccharides. Right? So carbohydrates have been further classified into monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. So you are going to detailedly study about all these three. Right? Now, children, you have further classifications of monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Let me teach you that. Right? The very first monosaccharides that you have to know is glucose. Glucose is one of the monosaccharides. Then you have fructose. And then you have galactose. Right? You don't worry. By looking at the new names, no problem. You will be able to understand well. Right? Then when you talk about disaccharides, children, there are three, which is maltose, sucrose, and lactose. And as polysaccharides, you have three, which is starch, cellulose, and finally glycogen. Right? So these are the classification. Look here very carefully. Carbohydrate is the most abundant type of organic compound, which is being further classified into three categories as monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides. So when you talk about monosaccharides, there are three types of monosaccharides as glucose, fructose, galactose. What are the three, students? Glucose, fructose, galactose. Once again, glucose, fructose, galactose. Again, repeat it. Okay, glucose, fructose, galactose. Right? Then when you talk about the disaccharides that is being further classified, you have three types of disaccharides as maltose, sucrose, lactose. Maltose, sucrose, lactose. What are they? Maltose, sucrose, lactose. Then when you talk about the polysaccharides, there are three types of polysaccharides as starch, cellulose, glycogen. As starch, cellulose, glycogen. What are they? Starch, cellulose, glycogen. Is that clear to you? The classification, is that clear? We will be detailedly studying in a while. Until that, did you have an idea of all this?
Yes.
Right. Now we are going to mainly focus on one of the simplest form, which is the monosaccharides. First of all, we are going to talk about monosaccharides, right, children? So monosaccharides are considered as the structural unit of carbohydrates, right? Now, what do you mean by structural unit? What can you tell as a structural unit? Why do you call as a structural unit? No idea. Very good. The simplest form, right? The simplest form you call as the structural unit. Now, you are a human where you are a complex system. Why? You have all the systems, you have organ, you are complex, right? Human is a complex body, right? Now, human body is made out of, when you decode the body, it is made out of cells. It is made out of cells. So, the structural unit of human is cell. Similarly, when you take the carbohydrates, right? When you take the carbohydrate is a complex one. Carbohydrate is a complex one. The simplest one of the carbohydrates you consider as the monosaccharides. Did you understand why monosaccharide is considered as the structural unit?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Done. Then children, when you talk about monosaccharides, they are the simplest carbohydrates, or you call it as a structural unit of carbohydrates. Right? Children, give me a minute. I'll come back for 1 minute. And I will switch on the charger. Right. Okay. So when you talk about these monosaccharide, they are considered as what, children? They are considered as the structural unit of carbohydrates, right? Then what you have to know, they are also, now you know what is glucose. Have you eat glucose, children? Like when you run in a sport meet, people just, these kids will have the glucose pack in their hand. Have you been a child like that? Have you been someone like that? Like they run a race, maybe just 100 meters. They think that's a big one and they have the glucose. A pack, a white color powdered one. Have you all seen that? No idea about glucose. So talk to me, children. You don't have to feel nervous. I'm a human being, okay? Talk to me where you will have the interest and interactive session, right? So if you want such a session, if you don't want to fall asleep, then you have to talk, right? If not, I will feel sleepy, right? Okay. So normally monosaccharides, now we are specifically talking about the monosaccharides, now children. Monosaccharides are considered as the simple sugar. They are considered as what, children? The simple sugar. Then you can find the monosaccharide in the crystalline form. They are crystal, right? They are not in the form of gas or they are not in the liquid form. They are in the crystal solid. Okay, crystal solid or crystal shaped as well, you can tell, right? Then you have to know that they are sweet in taste. Have you tasted glucose? Then when you have tasted, you feel sweet. Okay. Then children, they are water soluble. Now, what do you mean by water soluble and water insoluble? Let me teach you. Right. Now, you are having a water glass. Right. You are adding a substance. Right. Let me tell you, are adding salt. Right. Now, when you add salt to the cup of water, after some time, can you find the salt crystal? Will you be able to find the salt crystal in water after some time?
No.
You can't find that. Okay, you can't find that. Why is that, children? That is because salt have been dissolved in water. So, salt is water soluble. Where it is soluble, where it can dissolve in water. So, those kind of molecule or any substance which can dissolve in water, you call as water soluble. Now, imagine you are having the glass of water and you are adding some oil. Will they dissolve? Will they dissolve? No, you find the oil layer, some bubbles, you find that on the surface, right? On the, which will be floating in the top part of the water, right? So, which means that is water insoluble, where it is not going to solve. Okay, it will not solve. Okay, that you call as water insoluble, right? So, water soluble means where they can dissolve, the substance which can dissolve. Water insoluble means where they can't dissolve. Okay, children. So, monosaccharide is a group where they can be water soluble. They can dissolve easily in water. Right, children? Now, that is the basic idea that you have to have when you talk about monosaccharide. What is that? When you talk about monosaccharides, you have to remember monosaccharides are the structural unit of carbohydrates. Right? Monosaccharides are the structural unit of carbohydrates. Then you have three types of monosaccharides. What are the three types of monosaccharides? Glucose, fructose, galactose. Then you have to know certain physical properties of monosaccharides. They are simple sugar, crystal shape, then sweet. Generally, they are sweet and water soluble. So these are what, children? These are considered as their physical property. What you can see. When you talk about physical property, it is all about what you can see. That type of properties you call as physical properties. Now, if they are the simple sugar, you can see them. crystal form, you can see that. If they are water soluble, you can see. If they are sweet or not, you can taste them and see. So those are considered as what? Those are considered as the physical property. Did you all understand the physical property and the types of monosaccharides? Is that clear to you?
Yes.
Right, good. Anybody is having a doubt? How about the other children? Everyone just confirm with me. Are you all clear? Anyone is having a doubt? No. Okay. Then let's move to the next. Right. Now we are going to detailedly study about each and every type of monosaccharide. Right. Now what is the very first type of monosaccharide, children? What is the very first type of monosaccharide? Talk to me. That is glucose, right? That is glucose, right? Now, when you talk about glucose, you should be able to know where can you find this glucose. You should be able to identify the location where you can find glucose. One thing where you can find glucose is the ripened flower, ripened fruit, right? The fruit which is going to nearly to die. That's the ripened fruit, right? When you take the banana which is nearly to the black color stage, that is the ripened fruit. So where you can find a high glucose level in that as well as in the bee honey, right? Have you tasted bee honey? Have you tasted that?
Yes.
Right? Maybe you might have tasted it, but I am not. Okay. So because it feels weird, so I have not tasted, but it is considered as sweet, right? So that is because of the presence of glucose, because glucose has one of the physical property to be generally sweet. So therefore, these are the two places or two food that you can find glucose. Okay. Ah, that's tasty. I have not tasted. It smells little weird, isn't that? We'll see, inshallah. I'll try on a day. Okay. Right. Now, children, you have to know about their facts, the features of glucose. Right. Now, children, as you know that you had glucose in the monosaccharide. Right. This was the one that I dropped. Right. Glucose was there. Maltose was there and starch was there, right? This one was there. Maltose was a disaccharide and starch was a polysaccharide, right, children? Now, when you want to make a maltose molecule, right? When you want to make a maltose molecule, two glucose should combine. When two glucose molecule combine, they will form a maltose. When multiple number of glucose is combined, that will form a starch, right? When two molecules of glucose are there, that will form what? A maltose. When multiple number of glucose is present, when they combine, that forms a starch, right? That forms a starch. Then children, if this method was reversed, when the method was reversed, simply when the starch, if I want to write in other terms, look here, I'll take out a different color marker, then you can understand the difference, right? You have starch, right? Then there is maltose. Then here you have glucose, right, children? Now, when starch was broken down to two molecules that you call as what? Maltose, right? When starch was broken down to several small subunits that you call as glucose, right? During this process, look here very carefully. During the process of starch breakdown, what is happening, children? Starch is one molecule. This is starch. when the breakdown of starch is happening, what is going to happen, children? The end product of the breakdown is glucose. This is the end product. You find that in the end, right? So what can you tell, children? When there is the starch, when the starch is undergoing the breakdown, so that type of breakdown you call as the hydrolysis. Hydrolysis means, children, breakdown in the presence of water. I'll explain you in detail when we are talking about disaccharides. For now, remember as that. Okay? For now, remember as that. Right, children? When you have starch, which is a complex molecule, you are going to consider this to be what? A complex molecule, right? Then you know that the glucose is a simplest molecule. Why? It is a monosaccharide. Why? It is a monosaccharide. Right, children? You have the starch, which is a complex molecule. When you are breaking down that to glucose by undergoing the process hydrolysis, okay? Hydrolysis is a process breaking down in the presence of water. Okay, breaking down in the presence of water, right? So while starch is undergoing hydrolysis, what is the end product? Glucose. That is one of the facts or feature that you have to know about glucose. That is one of the facts, or you call as a feature that you have to know about glucose. What is that, children? You have starch. Listen very carefully before memorizing or anything. Just you have to understand the concept well, right? You have starch, which is a complex molecule. Why? It is a polysaccharide, okay, a complex one, right? Polysaccharide is one of the starch is called as a polysaccharide, right? You have starch. When starch is undergoing the process hydrolysis, which is breaking down in the presence of water, you have the word hydro. Hydro means, remember, always it is related to water, right? So when starch is undergoing the process hydrolysis, the end product is going to be the glucose. Why? It is the simplest one because it is one of the monosaccharide. Right? Did you understand the fact? Did you understand that feature of glucose? Is that clear to you? Is that clear to you?
Yes, miss.
Everyone, let me know in the chat, others as well. Is that clear to you? Anybody is having a doubt to clarify? Right. So that's one thing that you have to remember. That is one thing you have to remember. Right, children? Then you know there is a process. Okay? There is a process called photosynthesis. One of the famous process, right? Do you know about photosynthesis, children? Do you know about photosynthesis? Any idea of photosynthesis? Yeah, you have learned in your previous grade as what, children? Which produces their own food. Okay, the process of producing own food. No, children, that is what you have learned. But today, let me tell you the detailed version of photosynthesis. Right? That is the idea, you know, producing own food. But you are now the grade 10 student, grade 11 student. You can't talk about something like a simplest version, right? You have to be a smart kid. Why? You're a science student. You're studying science. And how can you give a simplest answer like that? Okay?